When Meghan Markle sat across from Christiane Amanpour at CNN's studio, everyone expected a thoughtful conversation. Two powerful women discussing truth, media, and legacy. But what began as a poised and professional interview soon became something else entirely. Christiane's calm, incisive questions met Meghan's sharp deflections. And beneath the bright studio lights, respect began to fracture. By the time the cameras stopped it rolling, one of them would walk away furious, and the other would walk away applauded. The CNN studio in New York was immaculate. Soft gray walls, gold-trimmed accents, and the steady hum of cameras preparing for another high-profile broadcast. Christiane Amanpour, ever the symbol of composed journalism, reviewed her notes with her trademark precision. Across from her sat Meghan Markle, dressed in an elegant cream blazer and silk blouse, her posture flawless, her expression serene, or perhaps calculatedly so. "Good evening," a Christian began, her tone warm but measured. "Tonight, we're joined by Meghan, Duchess of Sussex, an advocate, producer, and former senior royal to talk about life beyond the palace, her projects, and the global conversations she continues to inspire." Meghan smiled, nodding gently. "Thank you, Christiane. It's good to be here to talk about what really matters." The opening minutes were smooth. Meghan spoke confidently about her foundation, her podcast, her work on women's rights. The camera loved her as always. Her answers were practiced but polished. Every phrase wrapped in precision and poise. Christiane listened, occasionally interjecting with genuine curiosity. But beneath the civility, there was tension. The kind that only seasoned interviewers recognize. Christiane noticed the subtle rigidity in Meghan's shoulders, the faint defensiveness in her tone whenever a question brushed close to controversy. "So," Christiane said, turning a page in her notes, "you've often spoken about finding freedom, leaving behind one of the most traditional institutions in modern history. Looking back now, do you feel you truly found that freedom?" Meghan's smile didn't falter, but her eyes narrowed just slightly. "I think freedom is a personal thing," she replied, her tone airy but edged. "It's not about where you live or what you leave behind. It's about living your truth, something I've done consistently, despite how the media has tried to twist it." Christiane nodded calmly. "You mentioned the media, and I have to ask, do you believe that coverage has been unfair or simply uncomfortable?" Meghan let out a short laugh, one that didn't quite sound amused. "Well, Christiane, I think there's a difference between discomfort and deliberate cruelty. Most of what's been written about me wasn't journalism. It was harassment, with better grammar." The studio was silent for a moment. Even the crew behind the cameras glanced up. Christiane remained composed, but there was a flicker of intrigue behind her eyes. "I see," she said softly. "And yet, some critics argue that you've used the media just as effectively, through documentaries, interviews, memoirs. Would you say that's fair?" This time Meghan's smile disappeared. Critics love to use the word media when a woman tells her own story. When a man does it, it's called leadership. The remark landed like a stone dropped into still water. Christiane gave a small nod, unfazed. "Fair point," she said. "But surely you understand why people might see contradiction in advocating for privacy while maintaining such a public platform." Meghan crossed one leg over the other, her tone cool. Privacy isn't isolation. It's control. The right to decide what to share, when to share it, and with whom. I think people struggle with that concept because they're used to consuming others, not respecting them. Christiane's eyes stayed fixed on Meghan. There was something magnetic about her defiance. polished yet simmering with resentment. "That's an interesting distinction," Christian said carefully. "But do you ever worry that the public might interpret your version of privacy as selective transparency?" Meghan's expression hardened. "People can interpret whatever they want. They usually do." A faint, uncomfortable pause followed. The kind that happens when truth gives way to tension. Meghan adjusted the cuff of her blazer, the corners of her mouth lifting into a polite, almost mocking smile. Christiane didn't miss a beat. Her voice was still calm, but the edge of inquiry had sharpened. "Let's talk about your husband, Prince Harry. The two of you have been described as one of the most talked-about couples in the world. How do you balance the attention, the constant scrutiny?" Meghan's eyes flicked toward the camera before returning to Christiane. "It's simple," she said smoothly. "We don't read the nonsense. We live our lives. People project onto us what they want. We've stopped caring." Christiane smiled faintly. "That sounds peaceful." "It is," Meghan replied. Then, after a pause, "Peace is what?"
Or unfairly, of being calculating. Some say your every move seems rehearsed. Meghan's smile didn't move, but her tone chilled by a few degrees. "I find that fascinating, Christiane. Men call it strategy. When women do it, it's deceit. But perhaps you've noticed that pattern yourself." Christiane's eyes narrowed, just slightly. Not with offense, but interest. "I've noticed patterns everywhere," she said, voice steady. "But patterns often reveal truth, don't they?" "I think they reveal bias," Meghan said crisply. "People see what they want to confirm." Christiane nodded slowly. "Then what's the truth, Meghan?" "Not the documentary, not the headlines. Your truth." For the first time, Meghan hesitated. It wasn't a pause for reflection. It was the silence of calculation. "The truth," she said finally, "is that I've had to build peace in a world addicted to my pain." The words were elegant, poetic even, but Christiane didn't blink. "And yet," she said carefully, "you've chosen to stay visible. The world didn't force you into the spotlight. You've kept the cameras close." Meghan's lips parted slightly, her composure slipping for a fraction of a second. "I use my voice. That's not the same as seeking attention." Christiane leaned in just a little. "You believe that distinction is clear to your audience?" "I don't know clarity to people committed to misunderstanding me." Meghan shot back. There was the first crack. Meghan's tone was still calm, but her control had started to fray. Christiane, ever composed, pressed on gently, her words precise and surgical. "Let's talk about your time in the UK." She said, "You've spoken about feeling unsupported, even unsafe. But critics, especially within Britain, argue that the monarchy gave you one of the biggest global platforms in modern history. How do you respond to that?" Meghan's eyes flickered. She didn't like the phrasing. "That's an interesting way to frame it," she said, "as though opportunity erases harm. That's like saying a woman can't speak about harassment. An ambush." She reached for her lapel mic and unclipped it with a sharp motion. The sound of the static in her microphone filled the studio. Christiane folded her hands on the table, her composure unshaken. "If you walk away now," she said quietly, "that tells the world more than any answer could." Meghan froze for a moment, a flicker of hesitation in her eyes, then turned sharply toward the exit. Her heels struck the floor with crisp precision echoing through the empty set. The doors closed behind her, leaving an almost tangible silence. The crew looked to Christiane, unsure whether to cut to black or continue rolling. Christiane exhaled slowly, then straightened her notes. She looked directly into the main camera. "To our viewers," she began softly, "I want to say that sometimes conversations don't go the way we intend, but that's the nature of truth. It's uncomfortable, it's imperfect, and it doesn't wait for permission." Her voice steadied, her eyes calm, but weary. "What you just saw wasn't about winning or losing. It was about the cost of living in a world where honesty and image collide." We thank our guest for her time. The red tally light faded to black. The crew exhaled collectively, and in the stillness that followed, there was an unspoken understanding. Another headline was already being written. Another viral clip already taking shape. What did you think of that tense showdown between Meghan Markle and Christian Amanpour? Do you think Meghan was right to walk away? Or did Christiane finally ask the questions no one else dared? Tell us your thoughts in the comments below. Hit like and subscribe for more unbelievable real-life interviews that spiral out of control.